What if this season of transition was really just an opportunity? Like, okay, hear me out, hear me out. I know, because sometimes transitions don't feel great. Sometimes they're because of unexpected things that have happened. Sometimes it's because of things that are unwanted that have happened. So I get that not all transitions are enjoyable and fun and motivating and blah, blah, blah. But just let me just, what if the transition that you were in was really presenting you with an opportunity to rebuild with a much stronger foundation to where you will never be in this spot again? Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Couch with me, Lachelle Barnett, as your host, licensed therapist and business coach, hoping to become your favorite online business therapist. This podcast is for all of my high achieving helpers and healers, aka my mission driven, make an impact, change the world kind of entrepreneurs. I have dedicated this podcast to you because I see too many helpers live in survival mode. Even when they're successful, they just do it silently while everybody else thinks they're killing it. I believe that you deserve fulfillment and freedom, not just service and sacrifice. Here on the couch, we talk about how to balance your ambition with your typically lower and forever fluctuating capacity so you can fulfill your assignment. Now, again, it's presenting you with that opportunity. You'd have to take the opportunity for it to be true. But what if this season, man, this particular season was needed to launch you into the next season? Okay, so people transition as entrepreneurs for lots of different reasons. Sometimes there's health things, sometimes there's burnout things, sometimes there are economy things, or industry things, or divorce things. The things could be internal, they could be external, right? And the transition could be big, right? Maybe you're changing, lots of different things, right? Your entire business model, right? Maybe you're pivoting from B2B to B2C or one to one to group or brick and mortar to online or whatever it might be, right? Sometimes you've burnt your whole business down or want to burn the business down and start again. Or sometimes you're just changing one piece, like, oh, I'm just going to tweak this offer. Okay. But regardless, right? To what kind of transition? Here's what I know to be true. The harder the reason, meaning the more unwanted the reason for the transition, and the bigger the change. It could be both or it could just be one. Then I want you to look at this season as an opportunity to restabilize, to rebuild. Just that mindset, if you can wrap your mind around it, right, will help you make stronger decisions, more strategic decisions, right? Because here, if we were honest, okay, if we were, let's just talk about it for a second, because we talk about this a lot, right? We have a program called the Gap Year for people who are in a similar space. And the number one focus of that program is restabilization. Because what we find is that regardless to whether people were doing 50K a year, in their business, or whether they were doing 500K in their business, they're not stable. Not definitely not stable. Here's what I mean by not stable. Are you paying yourself? Are you paying yourself enough? Are you paying yourself consistently? Okay, not stable. Are you living from paycheck to paycheck or invoice to invoice or client to client? Or is there some level of continuity, reoccurring, some version of that? Oh, okay, great. Not stable. What does your savings account look like? How much is in there? How often do you add to it? How much goes in and out? All of these are signs of not stable. And that's just for yourself, like things that you need in order to thrive as an entrepreneur. We're not going to, yeah, let's just hint on the business a second. What's not stable in the business? Your lead flow, your sales, your onboarding process, team stuff, like whatever it might be, we find that at multiple income levels, there is a lack of stability. And so if you find yourself in a season of transition, if you look at it, listen, I know y'all can hear them birds. I'm sitting on my porch. I'm sorry, because they was out here living a life. Okay? Their life. If you find yourself in a season where you are in transition, I really want you to give yourself permission to see this as an opportunity to really stabilize your foundation and shore up some cracks that if you allow it to be this, you will never have to come back to again. It'll be a place you never have to revisit. We like to call this place the pre-scale phase of entrepreneurship, right? Typically, you're going from like starting a business to growing a business to scaling a business. It's pretty logical. But what we're really talking about is the pre-scale phase. We're talking about people who technically want to be scaling because they've made a certain amount of money, either currently in their business or previously in their business. And so scaling is the language. But the truth is, you're not scaling. No, I love you. I love you. Just remember I said that, okay? You're in a pre-scale phase. One, if your current revenue is not the same as your previous revenue. Meaning if you've seen a significant drop in your revenue, we would call that pre-scale. Like because pre-scale has a lot to do with, and that's not the only way to be in pre-scale, okay? But that's one way, right? If you're pivoting and you're going from B2B, maybe your revenue is stable in B2B, but you want to be able to build B2C and eventually transition pre-scale phase. It's not just income based, right? It's based on you being a more seasoned entrepreneur, right? And yet you're not scaling for whatever reason, personal or business, right? Because in order to scale, you would have to have something already working, right? Because that's what scaling is. It's taking what's already working and going to the moon with it. But when you're in the pre-scale phase, what you're actually trying to do is get something working. That's the whole goal. Is I got something working, and our definition of working is consistent revenue. Oh, I want to get this new offer up and working. Okay, that's not I launched the offer. No, no, no. It is launching it, consistent leads and consistent sales. And so what I want you to think about, because if you can, what I find is that if you can accept this mindset, if you can accept this idea of stabilization, not just intellectually, because we all want stable. That's not a hard sell. But like if you accepted that you needed to rebuild, right? If you accepted that this was an opportunity, right, to actually shore up your foundation, these are the four elements that I want you to look at and consider and ask yourself, are you desiring any of these things? Are you missing any of these things? Right? Because this is what, when you accept it, you build it in, and then you don't have to worry about in the future. Now, you do have worries in the future, but it's not this. Like there's a level in which you don't go underneath when you just accept that these are the four things that I need, right? This is kind of how we look at it in our gap year program. And we're like, hey, we're rebuilding and we're restabilizing. Number one is brand. And this just basically looks like, well, what do you want? And how do we align it with the business? This is your business model. This is your offers, right? We're aligning the business to what you want. It's another fancy way of saying strategy, okay? Because a lot of times what you want and what your audience wants are not the same. A lot of times what you want and what you're actually doing in the business is not the same, right? So our first step is to align those two pieces, okay? It's hard to stabilize a business when there's incongruence at the top, okay? We want to be in alignment with what you want and what with your business. Okay. The second one is your back end. And when we say back end in this context, right, in this particular process of restabilization, we're really just talking about offer validation, right? Particularly if you're offering something new, and the assets that allow you to run that offer smoothly. It's not just validating the offer and not just bringing money into the offer. It's like, oh no, the marketing is there, the sales is there, right? Again, we're talking about system thinking, not just creating thinking. That's where you get burnout and frustration and annoyance, where you're constantly creating, creating, creating. What we want is a season of creating, but really we want strong systems. Okay, so that's the second piece is your back end. This season is presenting you with an opportunity to tighten the alignment in all four of these areas. Okay. So the third one is your bank, right? This is where we start talking about your money, talking about how you're managing it, talking about how to prepare, right, for future stuff. So here's what I've learned is that women in particular thrive when they have security and safety. Now, we kind of already know that from a relationship standpoint, but what does that look like from a business standpoint, right? I was on a call one time and it was about four of us in a breakout room. And the woman was basically trying to decide whether she should quit her job and go all in on her business. And the man said, I think you should, because then you'd have more time and you'd have more space and you'd have more blah, blah, blah. And I said, hold up. Let me just give you another perspective. And I said, I think it depends more on what you have already, whether or not that's like money sitting in the bank, right? Or whether it's the business, maybe you don't got a ton sitting in the bank, but you got credit cards, right? Or maybe you don't have credit cards, but the thing that you're doing in your business is already working, right? Like what is already there, because women tend to thrive more when they're secure, when they feel safe. You need to feel secure in order to market, in order to sell. So this third step is about looking at, are you paying yourself? How much are you paying yourself? How much are you trying to put in your savings? What is the number? What is your enough number in general? All the money kind of management questions, okay, that no one really talks about in business, okay, which is why a lot of full-time entrepreneurs end up going back to employment. Not the only reason, but it's one thing to be able to make money. It's a whole other thing to manage it, okay? All right, so then the fourth and last one is what we call bodies. This is where we start talking about people. We start talking about team, right? Because you cannot build a big old business with just you. I know everybody is talking about solopreneurship and these one person businesses. That's for people who don't want big impact. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with not wanting big impact. But for most of the people who listen to this podcast are a bit more ambitious. They have their goals, and that requires people. We want some of those people to be in the stabilization phase, not in the scale phase. We all just, ooh, I could just spend a whole time there. So who do you need? And actually hire them, because stabilization is not just about doing the thing, it's about having a system around the thing. So not only have I hired the people, but the people are functioning, right? It's like they started, they've been trained, they're meeting their KPIs, right? In another episode, I talk about not moving so fast. Why? Because all four of these steps take time. But if you do them right, you don't have to come back to them. And that's why I'm doing this podcast, this particular episode, is because I want you to see this as an opportunity. Because if you go into it with that mindset, you're more willing to do these things. You're more willing to make decisions from this place. You will show up better when you have financial peace, when you have self-trust, when you have joy, when you have freedom. You just show up more powerfully. That's what I want you to hear. We're doing the things and we're completing them. We're not just doing them, we're not just launching, but we're actually completing them. When you do that, you don't have to return back to this season again, because so goes you, so goes the business. You need stability to thrive, and so does the business. Listen, I just wanted to jump in real quick with an announcement. If you are in some kind of pivot, maybe you're going from B2B to B2C, offline to online, maybe even one-to-one into more of a group model, or maybe you've paused your business and are restarting altogether. It doesn't matter what kind of pivot it is. One of the most important things you can do when you are in transition to ensure you get it right, to ensure the next season is actual elevation, is to be strategic, right? It is to make sure you have all of the pieces and to make sure all of the pieces fit together. And if you want help getting clear direction on your next steps, I want you to check out our next chapter intensive. It's a one-day workshop where we help you lay out your next steps, your offers, your marketing, your sales strategy, all to make sure that you reach your next goal. Click the link somewhere around this episode, the show notes, for more details.